There are moments when the universe whispers to us, not through thunder or spectacle, but in the softest of ways. A recurring number, a quiet thought, the strange sense that we've been here before. And sometimes, the whisper is hidden in plain sight. Take a moment. Gently bring to mind the year you were born. Now focus on just the last digit, the final number, often overlooked. Simple, isn't it? But what if I told you that this single digit carries the signature of a past life? A spiritual echo of who you were before you became who you are. In the quiet realms of ancient numerology and soul memory, numbers are not just quantities, they are frequencies. Each one vibrates with a certain energy, a lesson, a gift, a karmic imprint. And the last digit of your birth year is like a candle still burning from another lifetime, lighting the path you've walked before. In this video, I invite you to slow down, to listen with the heart rather than the mind, because what you're about to hear isn't simply information, it's resonance. As we explore each number from 0 to 9, you'll notice something strange, a sense that some part of what is said feels oddly familiar, like reading a letter you once wrote to yourself and then forgot. That is the power of soul memory awakening. That is what Lucent Wisdom brings you today. This journey is not about fate or rigid definitions. It is a soft unfolding, an invitation to remember, not everything, but just enough. Enough to stir something deep inside. Enough to help you understand why you've always felt pulled in certain directions, or why some lessons in this life feel hauntingly familiar. So let's begin. Take a deep breath. Let it settle you. Let it anchor you. Because the digit at the end of your birth year is more than a number. It is a portal. And through it we may glimpse the silhouette of a life lived long ago, still gently guiding the one you're living now. 1. The path of the first flame. If the last digit of your birth year is 1, your soul is walking the path of the first flame, a soul that once began something important, something new. In your past life, you may have been a quiet pioneer, not in the way of grand discoveries, but in the still spaces where something meaningful needed to begin. This is the energy of the initiator, of someone who stepped forward before others were ready. You may have planted seeds in that life that didn't fully bloom until long after you were gone. That kind of beginning often carries a quiet weight. In this life, you might feel an odd pressure to start over again and again, not knowing exactly why. There's a kind of loneliness that can live inside those born under this number, not sadness, but solitude, a spiritual independence. You may often feel you must lead, even when you'd rather not. But this isn't about power or recognition. It's about remembering how to trust your own inner compass, the one you've carried across lifetimes. You might find yourself drawn to new ideas or new places, like something in you is always reaching toward the horizon. You may struggle with feeling misunderstood or out of rhythm with the world around you, but that's only because you've been given a rhythm of your own, one that doesn't follow the usual beat. There was once a woman who always felt restless in jobs, relationships, and even cities, she moved often, changed paths, and felt guilty for not being stable. But when she slowed down and began listening inward, she saw a pattern. She had always been the one to take the first step, to help others begin. She wasn't meant to stay, she was meant to light the way. That is the energy of the number 1, not the loud leader, but the soul who silently carries the spark. If this is your number, your past life gifted you with the fire of initiation. You are not here to finish what others started. You are here to begin what others cannot yet see. Trust that. Even if you don't always know where you're going, your soul does. 2. Echoes of dual lives. If the last digit of your birth year is 2, your soul carries the gentle echo of dual lives, lifetimes spent in connection, contrast, and quiet harmony. In a past life, you likely experienced a deep spiritual bond with someone, so strong that it shaped your soul's rhythm. This bond may have been a sacred friendship, a lifelong partnership, or even a twin soul journey. The energy of 2 is not about grand gestures or dramatic love stories. It's about the soft, steady presence of togetherness, the ability to listen without needing to fix, to stand beside, not in front. And often, in that past life, you were the one who held the balance when everything around you tilted. In this life, you might find yourself yearning for connection without always knowing what kind. You may be especially sensitive to the feelings of others, able to feel what someone isn't saying. That isn't coincidence, it's soul memory. You've been the quiet bridge before. You've learned how to feel with another, not just for them. There's a quiet gift in this number, the ability to hold space, to be the one who brings calm where there's conflict, clarity where there's confusion. But there can also be a shadow to this gift. You may sometimes lose yourself in others, forget your own voice while trying to hold harmony. That's okay. You're not meant to disappear. You're meant to remember how to stay whole within connection. A man once said he always felt torn in two directions, his own quiet needs and the needs of those he loved. It exhausted him. But when he began to reflect, he realized he wasn't weak for feeling this way. In a past life, he had been the one others leaned on, a soul who knew how to carry hearts, not just burdens. He wasn't confused. He was remembering. The number 2 is the vibration of sacred partnership, not just with others, but with yourself. If this is your number, your soul may be calling you back to a promise made long ago, to live this life in gentle balance, to know that your softness is not a weakness, it is a memory of how powerful you once were when you simply stood beside another and stayed. 3. The memory of the messenger. If the last digit of your birth year is 3, your soul carries the imprint of the messenger, a spirit once tasked with sharing insight, expression, or truth across distances, minds, and hearts. In a past life, you may have been a speaker, a scribe, a storyteller, or simply someone who brought clarity when others were lost in confusion, not by force, but by resonance. This number holds the vibration of communication, but in its most sacred form, not just words, but energy, expression that reaches past logic and settles into the soul. Those with this soul path often find that even in childhood, people listen to them more closely than expected, not because they said more, but because something in their presence felt like a message. In this life, you may feel pulled to speak, to write, to create, or to bring people together through ideas, not always loudly, sometimes just with a glance, or a question, or a few carefully chosen words. There's a natural rhythm within you, one that remembers how to translate the invisible into something others can understand. But this path also brings the challenge of distraction. Your thoughts may move quickly, your focus may wander, and your energy might feel scattered. That's only because your spirit once learned to stretch between realms, between what is and what could be. Your soul doesn't just receive messages, it's built to carry them, shape them, share them. You may often sense when something unspoken needs to be said. You might feel restless until the right words are found, the truth is named, or the air is cleared. You're not imagining that urgency. It's an echo of the role you've played before. You've been the one who lifted confusion, who passed the torch, who reminded others of what they had forgotten. And yet, this path isn't about being wise or always having answers. It's about remembering the beauty of being a channel, of letting inspiration move through you without needing to own it. If this is your number, your past life left you a gift, the sacred voice. Whether it speaks in silence, song, or story, it matters, because someone somewhere is waiting to remember something, and your soul may be the one carrying the words they need to hear. 4. The grounded healer's return. If the last digit of your birth year is 4, your soul remembers the quiet weight of responsibility. In a past life, you were likely a builder, not just of homes or temples, but of foundations others could stand on. A steady soul, a quiet healer, someone who held the structure while others searched for meaning. This lifetime often brings echoes of that same energy. You may feel an inner pull to create stability, to make things right, to care for others with practical love rather than grand declarations. But sometimes that gift can turn heavy, because in a world that rewards speed, appearance, and constant movement, your steady spirit may feel overlooked or even burdened by what others forget to notice. Many people today are quick to chase signs, seek miracles, and crave cosmic answers, but often they forget the sacredness of tending to the simple daily things, the energy in a home, the way food is shared, the quiet of a well-made morning. The number 4 soul remembers that healing is not always dramatic. It's in the little rituals that bring order to chaos. Still, the shadow side of this path is getting stuck in structure. You may find comfort in routines or systems, but too much control can become a cage. Spirit speaks through flow, not rigidity. If your life feels heavy or uninspired, it may be time to loosen your grip. There is a gentle awakening in realizing that your desire to help doesn't mean you must hold everything. That perfection is not the same as peace, and that even in your stillness, you are allowed to grow, to dream, to be undone. Your soul came here not only to keep things grounded, but to remember that the ground itself is alive. It shifts, it breathes, and so should you. The sacred path of 4 is about quiet mastery, not improving yourself, but in being yourself, even when the world around you forgets the value of slowness and care. If this is your number, you carry the wisdom of calm creation. Your spirit once built what others needed. Now you're here to build again, but this time with gentler hands and maybe with a lighter heart. 5. The traveler who never settled. If the last digit of your birth year is 5, your soul carries the imprint of movement across land, ideas, emotions, and even lifetimes. In a past life, you were likely a seeker, not always by choice, but by design. A soul that couldn't stay still because something in you always knew there was more to experience, more to understand. You may feel that same energy in this life, a restlessness that rises just when things begin to feel too familiar, a quiet urge to break away, to wander, to chase a feeling you can't quite name. This doesn't always mean physical travel. It can also be a hunger for new knowledge, new relationships, new ways of being. But the gift of the 5 path is not just variety, it's depth through experience. Your soul learns best by living, not by reading or watching. This can lead to a colorful life, full of contrast, joy and heartbreak, curiosity and confusion, passion and doubt. But through it all, the spirit of 5 keeps moving, keeps learning, keeps becoming. There is, however, a tender lesson tucked into this journey, to remember that freedom is not the same as escape. Sometimes the very thing you're running from is the very thing you were meant to understand. The soul that never stops to rest may forget what it was even seeking. In today's world, constant stimulation is mistaken for purpose. People move from one thing to another, thinking change alone will bring peace. But the number 5 soul knows deep down that true freedom has roots, that the wind only becomes meaningful when it passes through something still. This path asks you to pause sometimes, not forever, but long enough to listen, to ask, am I chasing something or avoiding something? The answer isn't to stop moving, it's to move with intention, to remember that your spirit is not lost, it is gathering, it is collecting the pieces of a larger truth, one you've been building for lifetimes. If this is your number, you are not broken for being restless. You are simply remembering the motion your soul is used to. Let that movement remain sacred. Let it serve wonder, not worry. 6. Love lessons from other worlds. If the last digit of your birth year is 6, your soul carries the quiet imprint of sacred care. In a past life, you likely served as a protector of hearts, someone whose love was not loud, but constant. You may have been a caretaker, a guide, or simply the one who stayed when others walked away. Love was your language, even when you didn't speak it aloud. This energy often returns in this lifetime as a deep sense of responsibility for others. You may feel the need to fix, to soothe, to make sure everyone is okay, even at the expense of your own well-being. It's not because you were taught this. It's because your soul remembers how much love can heal and how much it can cost. People with this number often struggle with boundaries, not because they don't want them, but because their spirit is wired to merge, to feel deeply, to offer comfort. But when your heart stretches too far, it begins to fray, and that's when this path quietly asks you to awaken, to remember that sacred love includes yourself. We live in a world where love is often confused with sacrifice, where people are taught to pour out until there's nothing left. But the energy of 6 knows another truth. Love isn't about depletion, it's about devotion, and devotion must flow in both directions. You might find yourself attracting those who need help, who are wounded, who lean on your calm presence. And while that can be beautiful, it can also become a cycle, one where your healing nature is taken but not returned. This is where your soul is being asked to grow. The past life you lived gave you a gift, the ability to see what others need before they ask. But now, you're here to learn how to ask for yourself, to remember that true love doesn't drain, it restores. If this is your number, you are not here to carry everyone. You are here to embody love in its most balanced form, love that nurtures but also protects, love that gives but also receives, love that says, I see you and also, I see me. 7. The Watcher of Silent Truths. If the last digit of your birth year is 7, your soul carries the energy of the quiet observer, the one who sees what others miss. In a past life, you may have lived more in reflection than in action, not because you were distant, but because you were devoted to understanding the deeper layers of life. You watched, listened, and followed the threads most people never noticed. This number is connected to spiritual insight, inner study, and the hidden paths of wisdom. You may have been a monk, a seeker, or simply a soul who chose stillness over noise. And now, in this life, you might often feel the same pull to step back, to go inward, to make sense of things in solitude before you ever speak them aloud. There is a sacred kind of silence within you, a knowing that doesn't need validation, and while this is a gift, it can also make you feel separate, misunderstood, like the world is speaking a language you no longer use. But that isn't separation, it's memory. Your soul remembers stillness as a sacred act. In today's fast-moving world, people are taught to respond quickly, to speak before thinking, to fill silence with noise. But your path is different. You are here to listen deeply, not only to others, but to the quiet voice within. That said, the seven path can become too inward. There's a subtle danger in becoming so wrapped in your inner world that you begin to withdraw from the outer one. This is where your soul invites you to return, not to the noise, but to gentle engagement, to allow what you know inside to shape the world around you. You may feel drawn to philosophy, spirituality, or hidden truths. You may ask questions others avoid. That's not a burden, it's your gift. But remember, wisdom isn't meant to be stored, it's meant to be lived, even in small, quiet ways. If this is your number, you've come back as the one who watches with clarity, who questions with care, who remembers that the truth doesn't always shout. Sometimes it sits beside you in silence, waiting to be noticed. 8. The soul that faced the wheel. If the last digit of your birth year is 8, your soul remembers the weight and rhythm of cycles, the turning of karma, the lessons of power, the dance between loss and gain. In a past life, you may have stood close to power or held influence that shaped others' lives. This doesn't mean you were wealthy or famous. It means you learned firsthand how energy flows and what happens when it's misused or misunderstood. The number 8 carries the vibration of balance through experience. You may feel in this life that nothing comes easily, but when it does come, it stays. That's because your soul remembers the value of what is earned, not given. You likely have a quiet strength, the kind that builds slowly and lasts. But sometimes, you may carry a heaviness, like you've had to prove yourself again and again, even when no one's watching. This is not a punishment. It's a remembrance, a subtle echo of lives lived where your choices left deep ripples. Now, your soul walks with more care, aware that every action plants something, every decision creates momentum. In a world obsessed with quick success, people often forget that true growth follows a rhythm: up, down, forward, pause. The 8 soul knows this rhythm by heart. You've felt it in lifetimes before, and you've returned to walk it again, but this time, more awake. Still, this path can bring tests. You may feel challenged again and again in the areas of trust, control, and self-worth. That's not because you're off course, it's because your soul chose to master these patterns, not avoid them. You are learning to hold power gently, to receive without guilt, to release without fear. You're not here to dominate or to shrink. You are here to stand with grace, aware of your influence, grounded in your truth. If this is your number, your past life gifted you with the wisdom of the wheel. You've known what it means to rise and fall. Now, you're learning how to walk the middle path, where peace isn't in avoiding the highs or lows, but in learning how to move through them with steady, open eyes. 9. Completion before rebirth. If the last digit of your birth year is 9, your soul carries the energy of closure, of something long traveled finally coming to rest. In a past life, you may have come to the end of a significant soul cycle, one filled with deep experience, spiritual maturity, and emotional gravity. This number isn't about endings in the way we often fear them. It's about the wisdom that emerges when a soul has seen enough to understand and let go. You may sense, even without reason, that you've lived many lives, that certain things feel familiar not because you learned them here, but because you've already walked those roads before. This can make you compassionate, intuitive, and unusually forgiving, not because you excuse harm, but because you understand how pain travels, how it repeats when unhealed. There's a depth to you, one that others may not always see. You might feel older than your years or slightly apart from those around you. Not superior, just aware. Aware of patterns. Aware of unspoken emotions. Aware of when something is reaching its natural conclusion. But with this insight comes a quiet invitation to not become so wrapped in understanding others that you forget to live fully yourself. The nine path is often drawn to healing, teaching, or serving in some way. And while this is noble, it must come from a place of fullness, not fatigue. You're not here to carry everyone else's ending. You're here to walk gently with them toward their own awakening. This number also asks you to release people, roles, even dreams that no longer serve your highest path. That's not abandonment, it's alignment. You are learning to love without attachment, to give without expectation, to walk away without closing your heart. If this is your number, your soul is not at the beginning, it's standing at a threshold. One chapter has closed across lifetimes, and another is preparing to begin. You are not lost, you are in between, and in that space there is beauty. Completion is not the end of the story, it's the breath before the next one begins. As we come to the end of this gentle exploration, take a quiet breath, not to add something new, but to let what you've heard settle softly within you. You weren't told who you are in this video. You were reminded. That's the nature of true wisdom. It doesn't shout or demand belief. It simply stirs something ancient inside you and waits. The last digit of your birth year may seem like a small detail, but nothing in the universe is truly small. Every number, every symbol carries a tone, a quiet vibration that speaks to the soul in ways the mind cannot always follow. This is why something in you may have nodded along or felt strangely seen, not because the words were perfect, but because your spirit was ready to hear them. Past lives are not just stories locked in some distant realm. They live in the way you love, in the fears that come without reason, in the things that light you up or weigh you down. They are the subtle threads that shape your choices, your longings, your gifts, and perhaps most importantly, they hold clues to the lessons your soul is still learning, gently, patiently, and without judgment. This isn't a journey about labeling yourself or getting all the answers. It's about becoming curious again, about remembering that you are more than this moment and that the person you're becoming is rooted in everything you've ever been. Each number we explored today is not a fixed identity, but an energy you can feel into, return to, and grow through. You may not connect with every word, but even that is part of the journey. What resonates is yours. What doesn't may still be waiting for you down the path. So let yourself return to this whenever you feel called. Let it be a mirror, not of who you should be, but of who you've always been becoming. And as you continue forward, may you walk with softer eyes, with the wisdom that you are not just here for the first time, and certainly not alone. You are part of something vast, ancient, and quietly beautiful.